there is my old house. Wow, that color, though. Man, let me spin you boys around. I don't know how you'll be able to see out the tinted window, but it's my old house. 10386 Twin Oaks Drive, although it used to be brown and yellow. Now it is like green and white. It's where the doc used to live. My old neighbor used to live. Steve LaPresta used to live in that house. Looked different when I was little. There was a lot more trees and stuff there. Alright, put you boys back and we'll continue the headrest review here. Alright. I think you guys can still see me. You're all secured. Okay, so now that we broke the fourth wall there, move the camera. Alright, so we're back to the current year. We got all those cars, Crown Vic and BMW, are situated. They're everyday drivers. This thing was only going to be driven to the show, and that's really all it's for now, with its insurance and everything, and keep people from wrecking it. This thing's not featured a lot on my YouTube channel because I did all the work before I started really filming all my automotive repairs. But I did a lot of work to this thing, and if I can find, there are pictures that exist, so if I can find some of those, I'll include them here while I'm talking over it. But we did Moog suspension, upper and lower ball joints on the front, and those were fun to cut off. The bottom ones you just pressed in and out. The top ones we had to, they're riveted in from the factory, so we had to like grind and air hammer these rivets so we could bust those damn ball joints out of there. And now they're bolted in with Moog, so they'll be really easy to change if I ever have to change them again. And they are greasable, so assuming I keep up on the grease, which isn't that hard since I never drive the car, I'll never need to replace them again. I've replaced the OptiSpark on it with a Petrus Enterprises, or maybe it's Petrus, Chris Petrus. It is a vented OptiSpark. So the OptiSpark distributor on this car is run off of, I guess, the cam, but so is the water pump. So how this thing's bolted in, if you look at the front of the engine, you've got the front of it, the OptiSpark goes on there, so it's driven off the cam, and then you've got the water pump, which is also driven off the cam, because there's another little sprocket that kind of comes off of the cam that goes out the front, so it's just above it, but also over the OptiSpark. So to replace the OptiSpark in this, you have to pull the water pump. But it is driven off the cam, so the good news is, if you ever have, you know, your serpentine belt flies off or something, you can still drive this car until you run out of electricity, because your alternator is not going to be charging the car at that point, but you will, the water pump will still keep turning, so you can keep the engine cool. So there's that. A pretty clever design. A lot of people hate on the OptiSpark. They're like, oh, it's an unreliable piece of crap. It's really not. I've never had any problems with it. I just put a vented one on here, because 93, they weren't vented. The Petrus Enterprises one are. You just do a little bit of modification. That would have been a nice video to film, but maybe one of these days I'll just disassemble everything and be like, okay, this is how you put a vented Opti on. I've already done it. And here's how you change a water pump, because you're going to be doing them both at the same time anyway. So we did all that. I've replaced the plugs and the wires on this thing. I've replaced the fuel pump, which is really easy because these cars, the fuel tank and where you put your gas in is on the middle of the car in the back. So it's pretty nice. You can just park on either side of the pump. You know, it's like, which side of the pump do I want to park on? Any side. Doesn't matter. I can park sideways because I can back right up to it. And because of that, that little door that you lift up, you just unbolt that, and there's like maybe 6 or 7 little 10 millimeters, I think, that hold the sending unit, the pump, and everything in. So you just unbolt that, pull it out. There's a little gasket, rubber gasket there. You just pull the whole sending unit out, unplug it, put a new one in, boom, done. Or if you're only changing the pump, pull the sending unit out, put a new pump on, put it back in, boom, done. Really easy. And this thing gets like 25 miles to the gallon. Not so much in the city these days. It's down to like 17 or 18. But back in the day, you used to get like 25 miles per gallon average. It was pretty sick. So, covered all that now, I think. Fuel pump, most of the repairs. Oh, I also did like the EGR on it, because I usually, this is pre-OBD too. So it has OBD1 though. It's got a little key I have in here. Let's see, I can probably even grab it if I can find it. Here it is. Now these little keys, you just plug it into the OBD1 port and then turn the key, cycle the key on. I think I did a video on that. It's going to be way early in the playlist on this Corvette. But you plug it in, turn the key on, and then it'll flash. I think ready mode is like 1, solid 1, and then 2 quick ones. So 12 means you're in like diagnostic mode, but anything after that would be your code. And code 32 or 16, I think, was the EGR. I don't remember. But I replaced a solenoid at first. That didn't help, so then I pulled the EGR off and cleaned it, put it back on. Didn't help, so then I just replaced the EGR and haven't had any problems since. And then I've done general maintenance things on this, but I think that's about it for big repairs, which even then is just mostly general maintenance. So this is a pretty reliable car too for daily driving. Like some people, you know, if you're wondering, well, what's it like to daily drive one of these things? Would you recommend it? I would recommend it. You can drive it in the snow, just throw some weight in the back, and be very, very careful of everyone else, not so much you, because it's got posi track on it, and this car has ABS and traction. My 84 didn't. Honestly, I think the 84 did a little bit better of a job getting around, in my opinion. But also, I didn't have these big subwoofers and shit in the back of the 84, so you could throw a bunch of weights in it and weigh it down, and I mean, you were rooting. I could climb steep-ass hills, and I'm talking like steep hills like 11th Street in Crystal, going by the freaking baseball field, and the cemetery. That steep-ass hill, I could climb that back in the day, in the 84. Never tried it in the 93, but I can't put the weight back there, unfortunately. The subs weigh something, but they don't weigh that much. But it is pretty comfortable, as long as you're not fat or old. Because another thing, you have to wear these door sills are pretty damn high. I don't think you can see them, but just, you know, Google them or something. You'll see how high these door sills are. Which is, I guess, they're designed to, when someone smokes you in the side, you might not die. So the door might not be all the way over here. But they are kind of a bitch getting in and out of. Now, I'm not old and I'm not fat, so I can get in and out of it quite easily. But another thing that kind of goes bad on these is the shift tube bushing in here. Or not the shift tube bushing. I'm thinking of the crown bit because the shifting column's up here. The steering column bushing goes bad in here. So if I grab the steering wheel and pull really hard, I can actually move the steering wheel around. And that's because fat people get in and out of this thing, and they use the steering wheel as leverage to pull themselves out, and then those things go bad. So don't do that. And when you're buying a Corvette, if you're looking into one of these, shake the steering column on your C4, make sure that it doesn't move. And if it does, well, have fun replacing that, because all this has to come off. Oh, and other stuff when you want to repair underneath, like the headlight switch and everything. The switch actually is under the dash. Like when you're clicking the lever and everything here, there's a bunch of rods and everything going down to the switches down there. But because this car, now on a normal car, you would just like kneel down and kind of peek under there like on the Crown Vic or something to take the dash apart. Yeah, you ain't doing that on this, so you have to lift the steering wheel all the way up because it is adjusting. It goes up. And then you have to, so picture how I'm sitting, and now when it comes to working on it, you're going to flip me around, so rotate me so I'm now facing this way, and then tilt me another 180 degrees so my feet are up here. So essentially your feet are up here where the head goes. Your ass is still in the same spot, but instead of sitting on the seat, it's sitting on the seat backwards essentially. Your ass is kind of resting on down here, this part of the seat. And then your shoulders and everything are going to be down here where your thighs are. And then your head is going to be where your feet are. So you're going to be looking up into the dash near the pedals. So if you're not very thin or acrobatic, or you got arthritis or something, you're going to have a bad time working on this. Wouldn't get it. But if you're made of money, you can pay some other young dude to do all that. And I think that about covers it on everything that's not the headrest then. So let's get into the headrest part. Headrest review. What is the headrest like in this? Well, I'm going to go over that, and we're going to compare it to my other cars. So this, of those 4 cars I've mentioned, and even some of the other ones that I don't even own anymore that I have driven, this headrest is the second most comfy. So the #1 headrest comfy award goes to the BMW, because it has that spot where it just sits right here in that little small of your neck there. And it's power and completely adjustable. That seat adjusts so many positions, it ain't even funny. So that's #1 best headrest. But this car, the Corvette, 1993 Corvette, is the second best headrest, on par with the 84. 84 had a really comfy seat and headrest too. This one's also just as comfy. This guy behind me better not be trying to hit me in the ass with this big ass truck, or he's gonna hope he has full coverage. It got me all distracted, damn it. So this is it doesn't move. Like, the seat itself tilts forward and back. This seat does not have hardly any adjustment. So again, if you're fat, you're not going to have a good time sitting in this thing, because the bolster is going to have to squish you. But I have more than enough room in it. And I'm 5'11", 180. So use that as the benchmark. I have quite a bit of room before my head ever hits the roof here too. But even if it did, yeah, you can always take the roof out and drive around, you know, really high up if you wanted to. Or if you had a convertible Corvette, I guess just put the top down, and then who the hell cares if you're too tall for it. But this seat's all the way back. I always drive with my seats all the way back, mostly, as long as I can still reach the pedals comfortably, and you can in this. But the headrest is made of a nice foamy cloth. So it's got a cloth material, and it's nice squishy foam in there. So it is squishy. And, you know, you can fit right back into it. So it's kind of like, I would imagine if my Crown Vic was a newer one that had like the big weird looking headrest like B3 Burners has, which if you haven't seen that video, go to B3 Burner on YouTube channel and watch his Crown Vic headrest review. That thing is amazing. Wish I had those for mine. Well, I'm still on the hunt, because I would like the Crown Vic's headrest to be as comfy as these, because these are #2. Your head just sits right back in them, and as you can see, it's kind of aimed forward. You know, down here at the neck, it's thinner. It gets more forward at the very top where it touches the back of your head. And you're sitting upright. So I'm not sitting gangster style or nothing like that, like people accuse me of in all my other cars. Which is, I guess it's just an old school cop thing, because even when, I think I told that story in one of my other headrest reviews, right? My FTO giving me the business and the captain giving me shit for resting my head all the way back on the headrest. Well, I know which video that was. I'll link it at the card in the end. It wasn't a headrest review, I don't think. It was just a headrest complaint I got. But anyway, they used to talk all that smack, saying, well, you're driving gangster and you're too relaxed when you're driving. It's like, okay, one, it's called a headrest, and two, you know, when I get shot, I'll have this big B pillar here, nice and protecting me. Now in this car, the B pillar is behind me, which I guess is actually technically also the C pillar on this, because it's like this and that. There is no extra pillar. Like, the B pillar is the C pillar, essentially. This big thing right here. Your roll bar, I guess. So, despite everybody talking all that smack, this car, you can actually rest your head on the headrest, even if you're that type of guy to do it, and you're still sitting the upright position. Because like I said, the headrest doesn't move, and the seat only tilts forward so you can load stuff in and out of the back. It doesn't actually tilt forward and stay. The back of the seat is always in the same position. So essentially, you can only adjust the seat forward and backwards, closer or further from the steering wheel. So you're always sitting upright in this position. It's just, are you closer to the steering wheel or further away from the steering wheel? Cop, how much you want to bet he pulls me over? He's going to try. He's going to see these old-ass plates on this thing. Be like, those plates aren't real plates. They're from 1993. Grr, face, grr. And then I'll have to fucking school him. Alright, I guess I don't have to school anybody if we continue with the headrest review. So, you know, it sits back, it's comfy, it's cushy, more comfortable than the Camaros. Those headrests are pretty stiff, and they're like perfectly straight up and flat. Like these have that forward curve to them, the one like the Crown Vic has, but everyone says it's weird. You know, the new ones, the beastlier Crown Vic ones. And that's what these kind of are. So I like them. And I would like beastly Crown Vic ones too, I think. They would be on par with this at that point. Might even be more, because you can actually adjust those up and down. These, not so much. But I like them. So, headrest review, you do get the Hollywood seal of approval on this. I like the headrest. They're comfy as fuck. Daily driving. Recommend it. Been daily driving this forever until recently. And bad weather driving, yes, it'll do it. Rain, sleet, snow, and shine. This has all your creature comforts and all the nannies you really need. Now it's got the traction control, but you can turn it off. It's got anti-lock brakes, which I have become accustomed to. Doesn't have stability control. It wasn't invented yet. But, you know, it'll do. For a daily driver, I honestly, why you could do a lot worse. But a C4 Corvette, especially with the LT1, you got to get the LT1 engine, honestly. Don't let anybody scare you off saying the OptiSpark is bad and no good and blah, blah, blah. Now, the OptiSpark is fine. You know, I actually think it's superior. You just hear how fast this thing starts. I had to do that one day, do a video on how fast this car starts compared to another car. Because, like, I'll know a car, and, you know, they crank a few times. It's like crank, 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 vroom. Like, I guess you have to crank a few times for the car to know where the cam and where the crank is in relation to each other, which stroke you're on. This thing's like instantaneous. It cranks like once and starts, and it always has. And that's what the OptiSpark has. I mean, the little laser in there that can read the discs, the low and the high resolution discs. So like once you crank, it's like crank vroom. I mean, it fires up quick as shit every time. More so on a cold start, even, I think. Cold start starts at like one crank. It's like 1.5 to 2 cranks when it's like kind of warm. So I recommend this car if you're thinking of daily driving one. You know, if you're in the market for one, yeah, I would get one. And the headrests are freaking sick. So there you have it. I'm going to go ahead and pull into this quick trip here, refuel it, and then she's going to be parked for the winter. So you ain't going to see any more videos on this dude for a while. So hopefully this was entertaining and educational at the same time. Thanks for watching, boys. Peace.